Tonight's true scary story is the full version of the Ouija board chaos story. Guys, this is the craziest Ouija board story I have ever heard, but it does have a trigger warning for SA. We're gonna call today's submitter Brittany. Now, when Brittany was 5 years old, her father passed away from cancer, unfortunately. Shortly after that, her two sisters and her mother moved into a new construction home. But they immediately started having paranormal activity there, and they're not sure why because they were the first people to live there. Now, her grandmother helped her mom a lot with her dad's passing. She would stay there every weekend, and then she would stay there for the whole summer. Her grandma lived in an apartment which was like 15 minutes away from her mom's house. While staying at her grandmother's apartment, she also experienced a lot of paranormal activity there. Years go by, and she actually finds out that her grandmother and 10 other neighbors in the apartment complex actually had experiences of their own. Now, they were a pretty tight-knit community, so they talked to each other a lot, and they were all friends, and they all shared experiences with each other. And one neighbor actually looked up the history of the apartment complex, and apparently it was made on a graveyard. That was just a little background of the story. The story begins now when it gets creepy. Well, fast forward to when she's 15, and she also has two best friends that live in that apartment complex. Their names were Amy and Jose, and she hung out with them every summer that she would go to her grandma's house. Now, one day they were at Jose's apartment, and one of them suggested that they play with the Ouija board. Now, Brittany had never heard of a Ouija board back then, but her friends told her that she could talk to her dad through the Ouija board, and she missed him so much, so she really wanted to do that. So she said yes. She jumped at the opportunity to do this. I can't talk. So they drew a board on a piece of paper, and then they used a paper clip and they like shaped it into a triangle so that they could use that as the planchette. Creative little girls and boys. Now, for some reason, they decide to go into Jose's closet with the light off and candles in order to play the game. I guess they wanted it to be spooky. So they asked the first question, and surprisingly enough, the planchette starts to move on its own. Now, they're all telling each other, oh, am I bleeding? What the? Guys, I'm telling you, when I tell these stories, sometimes the craziest stuff happens. I know that's not that weird, but like, I did not bite my lip. I don't know why my lip is bleeding. But back to the story. So they're all accusing each other of moving the planchette, and every single one of them is like, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. She then asks if her dad's there, and the planchette moves to yes. And then it says, I would love a cup of coffee right now. After that, they had become completely addicted to the board. They played it every single day, all summer long, any chance they could possibly get. And I get it. Like, she thought she was talking to her father. She probably wasn't, but like, scary. But it did get a little out of hand because she did say that it was almost like a drug to her because she was able to talk to her father. So it was literally the first thing that they did in the morning and the last thing that they did at night, which is a lot. Now, after a while, they started talking to an entity, and this was the main entity that they were talking to. An entity told them that his name was Emmanuel, and they would call Emmanuel their bestie. They would just say like, hello, good morning, how are you? But then they noticed when they weren't playing the board and she was at her grandma's house, they would be watching TV, and the TV would just like turn up on its own and then lower the volume and then shut on and off. And it would do this on its own. Also, the light in the bathroom that was connected to the living room would go on and off. They would just say, please stop, Emmanuel, and that Emmanuel would actually stop. Now, something crazy happened. A couple months later, they found out that her friend was pregnant. Now, it was Amy that was pregnant, and she was actually a month pregnant when she found out about it, and she was excited, but she was only 15 years old. Well, a few weeks later, they go over to Amy's apartment and they're playing with the Ouija board there. And while they're playing with the Ouija board, they ask the Ouija board who they are talking to. And the Ouija board says Emmanuel, and they want to prove that it's Emmanuel, so they tell Emmanuel to say, if this is real, tell us who is pregnant here. This is the crazy part, okay? And this is the trigger warning. It spells out Brittany. They tell it, nope, you're wrong. Amy is pregnant, not Brittany. And then the Ouija board says, nope, you both are. Now, Brittany's heart absolutely sinks at this point because just a week prior, she had been sexually assaulted by a man she had never met before in his 30s. And this man had actually moved to their apartment complex. He was a drug dealer and he was dangerous. And so she didn't tell anybody out of fear of him hurting her grandmother. So she didn't even tell Amy. She told no one. So at the time, she didn't want anyone to know. So she just kind of laughed it off as a joke and was like, no. And there was no way for her to find out if she was actually pregnant because the assault had just occurred a week earlier. So she waits 2 weeks and she takes a test, and yep, she's pregnant. But before that, the Planchette, the Ouija board, had told her that she was pregnant by her assaulter. So of course her mom finds out about it, but she tells her mom that it's from her boyfriend, right? Because she's still scared. But the ultrasounds match up exactly with the assault, unfortunately. So a few months later, her baby actually passed away, but Amy's baby was still alive in her stomach. She was still pregnant. So the last time that they speak to Emmanuel, for good reason, is a couple months later at Jose's apartment. But it was just her and Amy playing. Jose was helping his mom with something in another room. So they're playing with it, and the planchette spells out, "Can you guys do me a favor?" And they say, "Yes, what?" And it spells out, "Brittany, Amy, can you kill me?" They look at each other and they just get goosebumps, and then they scream and run out of the room without even saying goodbye. So they're both looking at each other like, what the hell just happened? But they know that they have to say goodbye, so they run back into the room and they just move the planchette to goodbye, and that was the last time that they played with it. Well, Emmanuel did not like this, so he started kind of terrorizing these people. Brittany had a heavy nightstand actually hit the wall while she was in bed next to it. Lights would flicker on and off. The TV would turn on and off. Then she would hear raspy whispers in her ear say, "Hey." Then Brittany says she managed to ghost the ghost. I love this girl. She's actually hilarious. Until it finally gave up and left them alone. Or at least she thought that, because something really terrifying happens to her next. Now, Brittany was always really close to God, but this experience really scared her. One day she was at her mom's house and she was just laying in her bed. She was 16 at the time and it was early morning before school. Her pit bull, who had always laid next to her, started crying and whining in the room, and she thought that she had heard her mother get up and wanted to get out and go see her mother. So she opens the door to let her go see her mom, and it's about 10 minutes later before she starts getting ready for school. So she decides that she wants to lay back down for just those 10 more minutes. But as soon as she lays back down, she feels a hand rest on her thigh. She becomes completely paralyzed. She couldn't scream, she couldn't move, she couldn't open her eyes. She was literally paralyzed in an instant. She couldn't see anything either because she couldn't open her eyes. But as soon as the hand rested on her leg, she heard a little girl's voice say, "Mommy, I'm gonna go with her, okay?" And then the hand lifted off her leg and she could scream and run out of the room, and that is what she did. She still wonders to this day if that maybe was her baby that she had lost, or if the little girl was talking about the dog because her dog was female. So what do you guys think? First of all, Brittany, you are a strong... Seriously, because I can see just through your email, I can tell that you are just a fun, loving, happy person despite what happened to you. So that is incredible. You're inspiring to me. So I'm so happy that you seem happy, but I am so sorry that that happened to you. As for everything else, this is why you don't play with Ouija boards, you guys. They become addictive. You get attachments. Things happen to you that are scary. She said that she has other paranormal experiences too. If you guys want to hear them, drop them in the comments and I will ask her. And guys, I am still trying to get stories from the Devil's Tramping Ground guy, but he just hasn't emailed me back, so just know that. I will get them to you as soon as he emails me. But other than that, my name is Kaisa, and I tell true scary stories on here every night that you guys submit to me through email. If you like that, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys appreciate my content, it really helps if you hit that like button. I would appreciate that. And also, coming very soon, today or tomorrow, I just finished editing it, is the full version of the Bridgeport Poltergeist. This is about an hour long, you guys, so it's what you asked for. Love you guys so much. I need you to do two things for me, and what are those? The first one is have a safe night, and the second one is what? Have a spooky night. Love you guys. See you in the next one.